Well, a bit of a shock this week in the lead up to the first US presidential debate after a new poll put Joe Biden ahead of Donald Trump for the first time since October last year.
Even more shocking was the fact that this was a Fox News poll. For his take, we're joined by US journalist and commentator Brad Polumbo. Brad, good to see you. Look, Donald Trump was not happy about this poll, as you can imagine. But what's your take on it?
Well, it's still within the margin of error, guys, right? So Biden's up 2, but the margin of error is 3. So what it's telling us is that we have a neck-and-neck race between Trump and Biden. That's basically a jump ball at this point. Is changing every day. I think that's about right. I don't really understand what President Trump is so upset about, because it is a close race. Everybody I talk to thinks this is going to be incredibly tight and come down to the last days of the election. So to me, this actually seems about right. Remember, that's within the margin of error.
Brad, I want to move on to something else that caught our interest in the last 24 hours. A new law passed in the state of Louisiana that will require the 10 Commandments to be displayed in every school classroom from next year. But the move is not without controversy. The American Civil Liberties Union is challenging this in court. What's their problem with thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not steal? What's wrong with it?
Well, it's not that there's any problem with it. It's that it's really better left to be taught at home by parents. Morality should be taught by parents, not by the government. Typically, that's what we do here in America. And it's probably, if you ask me, this is kind of a form of Republican virtue signaling or gesture politics, because it's almost certainly going to be struck down by the courts as a violation of the First Amendment. There's pretty clear precedent. This isn't allowed, but you have a Republican governor who wants to signal his support to the Christian community, and so he's doing virtue signaling, basically. And if you ask me, it's not what they should be focusing on. I mean, 4 in 10 Louisiana third graders cannot read at grade level. I feel like that's more important than pushing religion on them in the classroom. If you ask me, we don't need indoctrination in schools from the woke pronoun people, but we also don't need to be teaching religion in public schools. Leave that to parents and families to decide for themselves at home.
Do you reckon the 10 Commandments is pushing religion, or is it just good guide for life that's pretty much been the foundation of the Western justice system, hasn't it?
Well, if it was taught as part of a broader sampling of religion where they said, here are the different tenets of all the faiths, I wouldn't have any problem with it. But they're not exactly including the pillars of Islam here, right? It's one particular religious tradition, the Christian or Judeo-Christian tradition, that's being promoted, and it's mandatory, guys. It's not saying teachers can, if they'd like to, incorporate it into their classrooms. It's saying you have to, which, maybe your teacher isn't a member of a faith that subscribes to the 10 Commandments. And I have nothing against the 10 Commandments, to be clear, but it is a fundamentally religious document. And I just think it's up to parents, right? Let parents raise their kids with whatever version of religious morality they see fit, and focus on reading and writing, something we're struggling to keep up with the world in American classrooms.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you, Brad. We're almost out of time, but I got to ask you about this one, because a 71-year-old Texas woman is trying to prove that beauty never fades. She's become the oldest contestant, would you believe, to compete in the Miss Texas USA pageant. I think she looks lovely. Oh, you wouldn't know. I think she looks young. What do you think, Brad?
Well, I think she's a natural beauty. She's definitely not had any work done whatsoever. Look, kidding aside, I guess never stop going for your dreams. You're never too old to go for it, I guess. Power to her.
Oh, gee, beauty pageants are not what they used to be, I must say.
No, they're certainly
not quite.
not exactly. Brad Polumbo, good to speak with you. Thanks so much for joining us.